Explor Resources Inc. is a Canadian-listed company on the venture exchange EXS. In the US market, EXSFF and Frankfurt E1H1 is a Canadian explorer principally involved in gold exploration in the very famous Abitibi Greenstone belt in Canada. Now, joining me via Skype is President and CEO Chris Dupont. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Tim. It's nice to speak to you again.
Yeah, and again, you've had some terrific results out just recently, and you're continuing to develop what's called the Timmins Porcupine West project. Now, can you please explain exactly what you've got there in TPW?
Well, I think first we should tell you a little bit about Teck Resources. We're a junior exploration company in Canada in the Abitibi Greenstone belt, and we have about 19 properties altogether. 14 of them are properties of merit that are significant properties that we have. Now we have one in New Brunswick with 3 million tons of copper. And then we also have our Timmins Porcupine West in Ontario, which has 1 million ounces of gold to date on a strike length of 2,000 meters, open on both ends and open at depth. Now that property was recently held by Teck Resources. We signed an option joint venture agreement with them, and they recently returned it to us. Now, we're quite happy that they did the work. They spent over $1.7 million doing a lot of technical work, which we will be able to use to build upon in order to expand our resource base. And currently, we've got a drill on the property. We've got 3-4 holes spotted that I did this morning, and the drill is turning. Our first hole, we will extend hole 109 by another 500 meters in order to intersect what we believe is the high-grade number 5 shear zone. After that, we will expand to the east and to the west along the strike of the structure in order to increase the ounces of resource that we have in our inventory.
This sounds Chris, this sounds very precise. Now, I know that you've had, 30 years experience in this area, so you understand these geological models quite well, is that correct?
Well, this particular model, what we did we took all the data that was done in the past, all the information over since the 1980s, and we built a 3D GEMCOM model in which we determined there was a synclinal type structure with a north limb and a south limb with a porphyry. Now, the porphyry being the heat engine, this heat engine causes the fractures, and these fractures are the structural traps where the gold is in place. People call those veins of gold in the end. Now, when we had the model, we knew the porphyry was there, then with the 3D model, it said we had a potential of maybe 20 to 30 million ounces. So the next step was for us to start drilling on the structure to find out.
Hold on a second. You just said 20 to 30 million ounces, Chris. That's an uncommon statement. That's a large deposit.
The potential is there. The reason the potential is there is because in the area we're doing our exploration, it's called Elephant Country. The Hollinger was there. It produced over 20 million ounces. It was on the north limb. On the south limb was the McIntyre. McIntyre produced 10 million ounces. So for a total of 30 million ounces on what we call the Hollinger-McIntyre model. That has synclinal structure also. Now, if you go a few kilometers over to the east of that, you have the Dome mine. The Dome started producing in 1909, and the Dome mine is still in production today with over 100 years of production. And they've produced over 18.8 million ounces of gold to date.
So that's why you're saying you're in Elephant Country. I mean, the Abitibi Greenstone belt is famous for a very strong concentration of large tonnage gold mines.
Oh yeah, it is very, very famous for that. Like the whole Abitibi itself has produced over 180 million ounces of gold to date and over 450 million tons of copper zinc ore. So with that in mind, the model that we have is realistic. Now we look at the Hollinger-McIntyre model. The porphyry is there. Our porphyry is about 5 times bigger than the porphyry of the Hollinger-McIntyre. Their porphyry produced 30 million ounces over a 75-year period. Now, when we started doing the work on our porphyry, which it's really called the Bristol porphyry. Now, that particular porphyry, to date, we have a structure that's over 2,000 meters of strike length, and we've got gold all along the structure. It's just a matter of us drilling and adding up the ounces. So basically, when you're in there, you just drill.
So coming up, so you're in there now, you're extending by another 2,000 or 3,000 metres very strategically by extending existing holes. What do you hope to see come from those drill results?
Well, we hope to see gold, and that with the gold that we're going to see in the holes, we will be able to block out more resource. Because when you drill a diamond drill hole, one hole doesn't give you a resource. You need at least 4 holes in order to get a block. Once you have a block, then you can calculate ounces, and those ounces you can add to your resource inventory.
So what we'll probably be seeing in the short term, I mean, you're drilling now, you said the drill's turning today and you've been out on the field. So what I can see happening now is very quickly you're going to have an upgrade on your resource.
Within 6 months, yes, we're going to have an independent third party upgrade our resource base. That's what will have to happen.
Now, you know, there's a lot of activity around that area, particularly companies like Goldcorp, who are rumoured to be building a $2 billion processing plant. Have you got information on that for the viewers?
Well, what's happened in Timmins, like we have on one side of us is Goldcorp and on the other side is Tahoe Resources. So we're right in the middle, basically. Now, Goldcorp has announced that they're doing a study. They've already spent about $50 million in order to build a 50,000 ton a day mill. Now, their whole installation will cost about $2 billion. That's what they're working on right now. So they're doing a bunch of what we call sterilization drilling near the old pit.
So they're serious. So they're definitely serious about this.
They're very, very serious. I mean, they've already spent close to $50 million, my understanding from what I hear. So consequently, they're very serious. Now, if you have a 50,000 ton a day mill, you're going to need feed for that. So I suspect a lot of the juniors are going to end up being targets.
So to provide the feedstock for the new processing plant that Goldcorp's building. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well, I believe Goldcorp is here for the long term, and they see this as one of their prime areas of gold production. And they're going to look at this and say, okay, we want to be producing gold in Timmins for the next 50 or 100 years, basically. I think that's what the senior management of Goldcorp is looking at.
Now, for investors watching, you have a very attractive share price right now. If you go back a few years, you were trading a little bit higher, but I think, you know, on the basis of that resource, that, you know, in an ideal world, where do you see yourself sitting as a, you know, the market cap share price company?
Well, I can see if, like the resource that we have right now, 1 million ounces, if I go back to my old days working for Noranda, where we used to do calculations, I'd say that resource is worth about $100 an ounce in the ground. Okay, so 1 million ounces, you just do the math on that. Now, I can see our share price easily going to say $1.50, $2. You know, we've been up to $1.50 in the past when the price of gold was up. You know, unfortunately, like Explor is dependent on the price of gold. When the price of gold goes up, everybody gets excited and they all buy gold stocks. And they also typically buy gold stocks with companies that have a resource. We have the resource. We've got independent third party verifying our resource. And right now we're drilling to increase the resource.
Very exciting news. Chris Dupont from Explor Resources, Canadian listed on the venture exchange EXS and OTC EXSFF, and Frankfurt investors can find E1H1. President and CEO Chris Dupont, thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. It was nice talking to you again.